guys, welcome to day 7 of 30 Days of Podcasting, your home for all things podcast. Today on the show, we're talking equipment and just podcasting wisdom from Steve Cassio over at Podcast Mansfield. We are going to do the full episode with some edits in there because there's a lot of wisdom in there. Tomorrow, I'm going to drop a bonus episode with just some gear along with day 8's content. So listen in and hope you enjoy. Mike. Well, what is up, everyone? We are here with Steve Cassio of Podcast Mansfield. Steve, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. We are going to dive right into it today. And I just want to start by asking a little bit about you. How'd you get started in podcasting?
Well, my background is talk radio. I started in talk radio in 1980 in California. Worked in talk radio off and on for over 20 years. When we moved to Texas in 2004, I retired from the radio industry and started my own business. I helped businesses place radio advertising from coast to coast and basically an ad agency. In 2011, I started my first podcast. It was a music podcast. I did it for about a year and a half. It was the first time, even though I always wanted to be a radio disc jockey. Mm-hmm. It was the first time I actually spun a record for an audience. I never achieved that goal of being a radio DJ. I was in talk radio. I fell in love with news and talk radio the day I started. And so 2011 started my first podcast. It was called Rock, Rhythm, and Roots. Did it for a year and a half, and it was just eclectic music. That was a blast. Around 2016, one of my radio clients decided to pull all of their advertising off of radio, and they wanted to go podcasting. Something I was, 2016, pretty unfamiliar with. Yeah. But they wanted me to produce their podcasts. And that's really when I became a podcast editor. In 2019, I got to a point where, hey, this industry is growing exponentially. I opened my own studio in Mansfield, Texas, and then in 2020, I started my own podcast. I figured, I've got the studio, I've got the equipment, I've got the experience,
absolutely,
and so now I am 74 episodes into my own podcast.
Awesome. What show is that?
It's called About Mansfield.
About Mansfield. And it is, if I remember right, it is hyper-localized to Mansfield.
It is hyper-localized. Where most podcasters want to be heard nationwide, they want to be heard by 1 million people. My target audience lies within 36 square miles, and which is about the size of a postage stamp compared to the rest of the country. But the nice thing about that is I can go out and find local advertisers, or in more specifically, with every episode, I have the trivia question of the week, and we give away a restaurant gift card, $25 gift card. So since the inception, in 2020, January 2020, since the inception, we've given away over $1,800 in restaurant gift cards. It hasn't cost me a penny.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. That is a great way to promote engagement and really kind of drive things forward. I like that.
Sure.
So starting your own studio in Mansfield, what did that look like?
First of all, let me go back just a couple of months prior to opening the studio. Business was not going so well with the ad agency. I was kind of in a funk with the business. So I took a friend out to lunch, and I said, I need you to help me redefine myself. And he goes, well, what are you good at? And I said, I'm good at audio production. I'm good at radio. I'm good at communications. I'm good at marketing. And he says, podcasting. Well, I was already in that field with that one client. So I went home that night and I asked my wife, I said, what do you think of the idea of me opening a podcast studio? And without blinking an eye, do it. And it was like, I was up till 3 a.m. My head was just spinning. It was like, yes, 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 yes. So I found a guy, it's actually a friend and a neighbor of mine, owns a co-working space here in the city. And in that co-working space, you got a bunch of cubbies that you can rent or lease by the day, the week, the month. But he also had 3 offices, and 2 of those offices were unrented. So I rented that office for a year until I found out that I was paying way too much in office space. The going rate here in Mansfield is about $3 to $4 a square foot, and I was paying about 4 times that.
Oh, wow.
And so after my first year lease, I left that place. Had about a month and a half left on my lease. I put the word out to all the entrepreneurs that I know in the area, and I said, "Who has an office? I need an office." And I came across another friend of mine who says, "I've got this big warehouse. I've got more offices than I need. Why don't you come over here?" And so my studio is about 50% larger at
Awesome.
1/3 of what I was paying a year ago.
That's excellent.
Life is good.
Absolutely. So coming out of radio and having your own studio, I know one of the things that you do in podcasting as well is you help new podcasters kind of set up their own home studio. You make recommendations.
I do, because I'm not young. I'm at an age now where I don't consider having any competition. Chris, I know that you're a podcast editor, and I realize that anybody in the world who is a podcast editor is considered a competitor. But I'm at an age now where I'll teach you anything you want to know. And people have come in here, they go, "Well, how do I do a podcast?" I go, "Well, first of all, you sit in that chair. And you put that microphone right in front of you, and then you talk.
And then you just talk.
And right. It's as simple as that. And yeah, I don't have anything to hide anymore because most of my friends who are my age are starting to retire. And a year ago, I started a brand new business. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not going anywhere, but because of my age, my experience, again, I've got nothing to hide. So you know what? You want a half hour? You want an hour of my time? So be it. And I love mentoring people.
That's excellent. One of the things that we're doing with this show is sharing that knowledge wealth. So let's talk equipment for a few minutes here. For a new podcaster, someone that might have an idea what they're doing. They're on the message boards. They're looking through Google and watching YouTube videos to see what gear they should get. And everyone's telling them, get a Yeti, get a Rodecaster Pro. What should a starting podcaster look for? Let's just say if they have a solo show.
For a home studio?
For a home studio, yeah.
Home studio, okay. First thing I would do is buy a dynamic microphone, and with an XLR cable. You can get them with USBs, but all right. So there's your microphone, and you can get a good one for $99. Run that into a 4-channel mixer, a 4-channel mixer that hopefully has a USB output that acts as your USB interface. And then, this is presuming that the person's going to have a computer,
right?
Maybe it's a laptop or a desktop. So, microphone, cable, mixer, USB cord goes into your computer, and whatever software out there, Audacity's free, GarageBand is free, and those right there are the basics. You're going to need some type of room treatment if you're in a big room. I have a young lady that contributes to my podcast weekly, And her room treatment is she records her segments in her master bedroom closet.
That's what my wife did for her show.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. So whether it's moving everything into your closet, or if you're working out of your den and your den happens to be cavernous, yeah, you're going to need something. And I've seen people use blankets or anything to prevent the sound in your room from bouncing off the walls.
So it's interesting to hear you say, start with the $99, under 99, XLR dynamic mic. When there's a lot of people out there looking for a Rode mic or one of the condensers that's going to pick up a lot more with the Yeti or the Snowball. So why do you recommend a dynamic mic?
Well, look at you and look at me. We're both right within a couple of inches of our microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of a dynamic microphone, is that the sound pattern that the microphone picks up is right within the area. A condenser microphone, you can have it far away from your mouth, but it's going to pick up everything around the room. Everything around the room. And so you notice, for instance, singers, guys on stage that are they're right up on the microphone, and they're using dynamic microphones where that sound pattern is so small, it's not picking up sound or information from except from just that little area. I use I'm also a musician, so I use a Sennheiser E835 on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And when people have asked on Facebook, what kind of microphone do you recommend? If you want to go inexpensive, that's my first choice that I always tell them, a Sennheiser E835. Mm-hmm. It will need an XLR cable, and then run that into either an audio interface like a Scarlett or just an inexpensive mixer.
And I know I've actually seen a few podcasters find their mixers at pawn shops and like a used music supply store that's in a rundown strip mall.
I am a big believer in Facebook Marketplace.
Absolutely.
Craigslist a little bit.
Yeah. It's harder to find stuff there anymore.
Yeah. I use the same microphone that Joe Rogan uses. This is the same microphone model that Michael Jackson used to record Thriller. I own 5 of them in the studio. I believe 2 of the 5 were purchased used. 3 of them because I needed to start this studio quickly, so I bought 3 of them new.
Mm-hmm.
And then started piecing them together. It's like, okay, I'm expanding, and so now I've completed the set. I'm sitting here at my editing bay, and then off to my left, your right, is the talk table, and the talk table has 4 of the SM7Bs, but they're expensive, and so if you're putting together a studio for your home, yeah, you don't need one of these. You could actually get the baby brother of the SM7B, which is the Shure MV7B.
That sounds right.
Which is actually a really good. And then you've got your choice of using an XLR or a USB cable.
With the table to the side there, with the same mics, how do you prevent mic bleed from happening in the recording? Because I know that's an issue for a lot of new podcasters and even people who've been doing it for a while, when the mic that you're on is also picking up Jim over there in the corner.
Right. Here in the studio, because I've got 4 mics over there, mic bleed is going to happen, but that's something that I fix in post-production. When you've got 2 or 3 separate tracks, and you see just the really fine line of mic bleed, then I just go in and I silence it out. That's going to happen in any studio, even when I worked in radio and you've got two or three mics going at the same time. I think a lot of editors tend to put too much emphasis on perfection. Again, coming from talk radio, what goes out on the air is raw audio that's coming from the studio. You
can't take it back.
Right. And, if you've got 3 mics, 4 mics open, that's the audio that goes out and the listeners accept it. And there's a lot of emphasis on deleting filler words, ums and ahs and knows and whatnots and I tell you what's and a lot of those are just natural ways of speaking.
Absolutely.
If
I say
it
a lot.
Now, see, my background is also public speaking, so
Right.
I recognize that when a speaker is this okay, yeah, it becomes a bit of a problem,
Right.
and you go out and you edit those out. But for the most part, ums and ahs are just show that you're human, and I think we're all human, right?
I would hope so. If you're not, let me know. I'd love to talk with you. So let me throw this out. I've also seen a few kind of group-based shows that are just using one of those room mics, a condenser that's not a condenser, a mic that's just out in the middle of the table, and they're all just kind of sitting around talking into that one mic. What do you see as kind of the pros and cons of that setup over having individual dynamic mics around the room?
The con I see on that is that, again, it's going to be a microphone that's going to pick up every piece of noise in the room. Because if you're sitting 3 feet away from this microphone and your partner is another 3 feet away, it has to pick up everything. You're not also going to get the delicacies of using a microphone where you are right up next to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually part of the power of using your voice in podcasting or broadcasting, that if you've got a microphone sitting 2-3 feet away on the table, it's not going to pick up those subtle nuances that, I was driving my car on the way to work today, and you know what happened? I saw a frog. And so to be able to come in close and bring the listener in, you're not going to get that with a microphone that's sitting on the middle of on the middle of a table.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think what you just illustrated is one of the things that makes podcasting so powerful. It is that intimate connection with your listener. It's not broadcast radio that's playing over FM. That you might have a good signal, you might not. If you drive in the wrong,
Right.
If you're in the wrong part of town where there's tall buildings, that signal could be blocked, or the quality just degraded.
Right.
So having the ability to craft that intimate level, I mean, even just with, as you illustrated, just by getting close to the mic and making it intentional, it really makes an impact on the product at the end.
It really does. And for podcasters, please, this is broadcasting 101. When you're talking to your audience, you're talking to one person.
Mm-hmm.
You could have 100,000 people out there that are listening, but you want every one of those 100,000 people to think that you're talking to them. And so it really kind of drives that spine tingle up there when I hear people say, "Hey, welcome to the show. How's everyone doing today?" Well, that's not very personal. How are you doing today? We appreciate you being here today. Yep. And so everyone out there feels that they are the one that you're talking to. And I used to work with a disc jockey down the hall, when I was working in news radio, we had an FM station down the hall, and the disc jockey up on his copyboard where all the papers were, he also had a picture of his wife. And I thought, hey, why do you keep a picture of your wife up there? He says, because when I turn on that microphone, I'm talking to her. And everybody else just happens to be listening along. And this was a really popular DJ in the afternoons. And I thought, that is brilliant. To whether it's to have a physical photo in front of you or to mentally picture that who is your target audience, create that mental image of that person and talk directly to them. That's what I love about podcasting.
That's golden. We have a whole nother episode on picking your ideal listener, your ideal avatar, and why that's so critical to being able to make that connection. Because if you're just talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. So having that ideal person in mind as you're communicating with the microphone, with the camera, looking at a picture. All right. I think my last question for you today, Steve, is what's something that you're working on, whether it's in podcast space or outside of the industry altogether, something that you're working on that you're proud of, that you are happy to hang your hat on and say, I'm a part of this?
Within the industry, I'm just really proud that the fact that people are coming to me and putting their trust and it really it's 100% trust into my recording service, my editing service, my post-production, my marketing services, and that to me is very humbling. I've got clients that come in, whether it's in the morning. In fact, I've got a client coming in about 22 minutes from now, and that again is just a tremendous honor that people are when I bring a client in, it's not what do you want edited, what do you want. They just hand me the podcast or do the podcast and say, you edit it. It's one of those rare where I've got 100% creative license in the editing process.
That's excellent.
And that as long as I don't edit out content or take someone out of context, then it's fair game. What I'm particularly proud about outside of the industry, as I mentioned, I'm a musician and I love playing music, and the fact that Texas is now starting to open up again, that we're seeing a slight drop in COVID-19 cases. I'm playing live music again, but the thing that I'm most particularly excited about, my son is a classically trained musician who improvises incredibly. And he's home for the summer. He's attending University of Minnesota for his master's in performance. And he's home for the summer. So starting tomorrow night, throughout the month of August into a short bit of September, I get to play with my son, which awesome. Is sharing a stage with my son is just very, very exciting.
I bet that is a special joy that only a dad can experience.
Yeah, and his main instrument is trombone, and right now he owns like 7 or 8 trombones, but he off of the trombone he taught himself how to play bass guitar, and so my songs are fairly simple. I just play guitar and sing, and he plays along. But he will bring an element to my music that just takes it to the next level. He'll come to me with these little jazz chords that he learned out of University of North Texas, and hey, Dad, how about finishing this song with a add 6th? And it's like, huh? Oh yeah, that sounds cool. He goes, yeah, we'll do more of that. And So it's taken my game up to the next level, which is funny because I started teaching him when he was in the 6th grade. And he would come play with me, and it was just a lot of dun, 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 squeak, squeak, dun, dun. And little by little, he kept getting better and better and better. And now it's an absolute joy to learn from him after me having taught him.
That's incredible.
That I'm still a self-taught musician, and he's a classically trained musician from 5 years at UNT, and oh my gosh, he came out of UNT with just an incredible musical background. So that, I'm an extremely proud dad. I took a long time to say I'm an extremely
nothing wrong
proud.
with that. Well, Steve, where can people find you? Where would you like to direct them to follow you at? Things that you're working on, things that you are doing.
I'm on social media. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I do have a website. So look up Podcast Mansfield on social media. I am also on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. You can also find me on the web at podcastmansfield.com. And that'll tell you everything you want to know about me. In addition to that, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I do have my own podcast. And so if you want to take a listen to what I do, that is aboutmansfield.com. And there are 74 episodes. If you click on the podcast tab, you can listen to any one of the 74.
All right. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll have you back sometime for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
if you'd like to be back, and we will see you soon.
Hey guys, make sure you subscribe, like the video to help out the algorithms, and hit the bell if you want notifications whenever we drop a new episode, which is every day for the month of July. If you want a longer format or audio-only version, check us out wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Audible, all the places. We're there. So check it out, and we will see you soon.